If I had to use just one word to describe the plight of the American donkey, I would probably have to say forgotten. For all their vast contributions to the building of this country, donkeys have been forgotten and have truly lost their place in history.
One word, I would have to say valueless. Most donkeys in this country don't have a lot of value, so they're easily discarded.
Misunderstood. People have no idea how loving, curious these animals can be. All the time we hear things like stupid, stubborn. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Donkeys first came to the Americas over 400 years ago with the early Spanish explorers. They were brought here as beasts of burden, carrying supplies and material. Over the years, donkeys have been instrumental in building the Catholic missions, carrying supplies and explosives for the railroads, and of course their many contributions to mining.
You know, a lot of people don't know or don't realize that the donkeys we have in America have come from all over the world. As the immigrants piled in, so did the donkeys they brought with them. Today's American donkey is a mixture of Mediterranean and European breeds. And in fact, George Washington was given Spanish donkeys by King Charles III.
Donkeys today face three major problems: poor treatment at the hands of ignorant owners, public perception, and loss of habitat. Most people that own donkeys do not take proper care of them. This is because the owners are either unaware of the necessity or are indifferent to it. As far as public perception goes, donkeys in America are treated like a joke. Bugs Bunny turns into a donkey when he does something foolish. Pinocchio turns into a donkey when he's overindulgent. These things are ingrained in our society. And as for the wild burros, their numbers have been drastically reduced over the years. Where do you think they all go?
A lot of people don't understand the terminology that we use with donkeys. Jeanette, or Jenny for short, is a female, whereas an uncastrated male is called a jack. We generally use the term donkey for the domestic animals, and then we use the word burros to describe the wild ones. A mule is a hybrid cross between a male donkey and a female horse.
Mark and I started Peaceful Valley as a hobby. We got a donkey off the internet that we named Izzy to be a companion to an old horse that we had. We had no donkey experience at all, and we had no idea how sweet or friendly they were. We started seeing donkeys in our community that were in bad shape and started buying them up and trying to fix them medically, emotionally, just trying to help them.
We probably had over 25 donkeys before we ever decided to start a donkey rescue. We needed a means to place them in adoptive homes where they wouldn't fall back into abuse or neglect. We just had too much time, money, love, and effort invested in them for that to ever happen.
Mark and Amy founded Peaceful Valley in the year 2000. Since that time, the organization has grown every year. We take calls from all over the country, from local to federal and state government agencies. Peaceful Valley is the only organization that can handle projects of 100 or more donkeys.
BVDR rescues a lot of donkeys every year. Right now we're caring for over 3,000, so it's my job to get as many adopted out as possible. I spend most of my time out in the big paddocks with the big herds, evaluating donkeys, looking for the ones that want to be friendly, that want to be curious, want to be with people. To be in the adoption program, donkeys must be friendly and sociable, stand well for trimming, and lead well on a halter.
We developed the Satellite Adoption Center program a few years back. It was a way for us to be local all across the country. Volunteers open up their ranches to our donkeys and assist us in placing our donkeys into loving homes. Once we rescue a donkey, that donkey belongs to us for life. That way, if something happens, like a job change or a relocation or anything where the people can't take care of the donkey, then the donkey comes back to us. With the satellite program, they can make sure that all the donkeys we place, no matter where, are taken care of.
We don't get a lot of people interested in adopting donkeys here in Texas, so we need to move them out to the satellite adoption centers all across the country. We've had a lot of success in places like the Pacific Northwest and the East Coast.
Donkeys have a natural awareness of dogs. They bond really easily with the animals that they're with, be it sheep, goats, cows. They can protect them against all sorts of predators.
We do our best to just rescue donkeys, but when you show up to a starving donkey case and you see a pig or a sheep, goat, or even a cow that is in just as bad a shape, how do you leave it behind? So from time to time we end up with other types of animals too. We seem to take in a lot of mules. Usually these are wilder ones that people don't want. Right now I think we have over 30. And then there are the Kulons. They are a subspecies of the Asian ass. Unlike the donkeys that people are familiar with that originated in Africa, these are from Asia. There are 5 subspecies. One is extinct and the others are endangered. We acquired them because the sheriff departments thought that they were donkeys. Let me assure you they are not. The Asian ass has never been domesticated. They are extremely wild. We assume they came from canned hunting ranches where people pay a lot of money to shoot them for their pelts.
Having so many donkeys is a lot to keep up with, but we do have a really great system in place. When a rescue case comes in, it's assigned a case number. And then from there, that case number will go into that donkey's file. And that way we'll always know where that donkey came from. Then we insert a microchip into the donkey's neck. Every donkey gets one, and every microchip has an individual number. That way we can always keep up with who's who.
With our data system, we can look up every donkey we've ever rescued. It has the rescue case information, the donkey information, and the adopter information. It's all tied together. It's a great system.
Mark is a very ambitious and optimistic person, and I really like that. Can't is not a word in my vocabulary. It's a 4-letter word that prevents you from getting things done. And in the little bunkhouse that we're staying in, there is a sign written on a dry erase board saying, "We can save them all, and we will." And that's pretty optimistic. I mean, you look around here, and I've seen large herds of donkeys, but this is incredible. He obviously is taking on a very large task. He's putting everything he has into it, and they're doing a good job of giving these donkeys at least a chance of survival and a chance of a decent life. And that is very laudable, I think. I'm very impressed with the place. I'm very impressed with the skill and the dedication of the crew and the way the donkeys are kept. That's hard to do with that many animals, no matter how you slice it. And I've been to sanctuaries before that, believe me, did not do nearly as good a job.
My main job with the rescue is to oversee the health of the nearly 2,000 donkeys we have out on grazing sanctuaries. The donkeys are placed in herds of anywhere from 20 to 250, and that is dependent on the size of the sanctuary. If a particular animal is not doing very well, I will go out to the sanctuary and pick it up and bring it back to the Texas ranch.
Sanctuary program has been great. It really helps reduce the number of donkeys that we have here on the ranch. It's not cheap. It's $15 a month per donkey, but even at that price, it's still cheaper than having them here on the ranch.
Donkeys are surprisingly hardy animals. Donkeys have less health issues than horses, and they can eat a more varied diet. Most of the issues we deal with are with hooves. From lack of trimming, being kept in a small pen, all those things can contribute to overgrown hooves. We also see malnourishment. This generally occurs in drought-stricken areas where the owners do not want to supplement the meager grazing.
We feed each donkey 10 pounds of hay per day, and many get a supplemental pellet ration because they have a medical condition or they're too thin. That means that every day we feed 12,000 pounds of hay and 800 pounds of pellets at a daily cost of over $1,300, and that is just for feed.
To help offset the feed cost, we've started growing fodder in the hydroponics room. The system can make several hundred pounds of fresh grass each day. We start with only 7 pounds of seed per tray. The seeds are then laid out in each tray and they are automatically watered for 2 minutes every 2 hours. The system is completely drought resistant. We have to monitor the growing conditions and keep the room at around 70 degrees and about 50% humidity.
Each day Michelle and I harvest the fodder and we set up the trays for the next batch. The fodder is ripped up into pieces and fed to the donkeys that need it most. The fodder mats are 100% edible and the donkeys really like getting the fresh feed.
Over the years, Peaceful Valley has done some pretty impressive projects. We have removed almost 500 burros from the Sheldon Refuge in northern Nevada over the past 10 years.
We've rescued over 100 donkeys that have crossed over from Mexico. Now, some of these donkeys are just hungry and they're coming over here looking for something to eat, and others are transporting drugs, and then once they get over here with them, they're cut loose.
We have taken in over 200 donkeys from other rescues that have closed down. Many rescues get in over their heads and end up doing more harm than good.
A couple of years ago, we did a project with the Humane Society where we flew 120 donkeys from Kona, Hawaii to Los Angeles. They were having a drought and the donkeys were actually coming down out of the mountains to eat the greens on the golf course.
2004, Congress passed a law that any burro that had been through the Bureau of Land Management adoption program 3 times or was over 10 years old had to be sold. The BLM really didn't know what to do with these donkeys. At that time, PVDR stepped up. Since then, we've taken in hundreds of these burros.
I got involved with Peaceful Valley when Mark came to a donkey symposium that a colleague of mine and I ran at Texas A&M about probably 6 or 7 years ago. Mark came because because he was running this place and he wanted as much information as he could. And he was the one at that point in time that wondered if we could get an association between A&M and Peaceful Valley to use for student teaching here, just as we've been doing today, to bring students out to participate in routine procedures on donkeys that are helpful for their educational process, and it benefits both parties, A&M and him.
And the crew, and learned about how many donkeys he's got out here in the need. And at that point, we started putting a team of a surgeon or two, a couple of house officers, which means an intern or a resident, and a series of maybe 4 to 6 to 8 vet students together. And we would come out, initially in the early days, we came out about 4 times a year. Now we come out about twice. It's kind of a win-win situation, I think, for everybody, because one, the students get an excellent opportunity at doing field anesthesia and surgery. Castration is the most common surgery done. They get a lot of repetition at it because there's probably anywhere from 125 to 200 donkeys we geld per trip. And it's a win for the donkeys because they're gelded, they can be made suitable for adoption, and hopefully everybody benefits from it. So it's been a tremendous resource for our program.
Castrations are a huge part of what we do around here. Peaceful Valley rescues between 750 and 1,000 donkeys every year. And of those, 75 to 85% are whole jacks, uncastrated male donkeys. So we castrate them for 3 main reasons. One is to prevent breeding. We have more donkeys than we know what to do with. 2 is it keeps them from fighting. These donkeys are all beat up from years of fighting. Too many jacks in too small an area. Like any male animal, they're territorial, they want to fight. And so it prevents that. And then 3rd, it just makes them better pets. They're easier for us to place into our adoption program once they're castrated.
Even though Texas A&M gives us a break on the cost, it still costs well over $100 for each castration that we perform, and we perform 300 to 400 each year. There are no 2 ways about it. Donkey rescue is expensive. We have 2 transport rigs, each capable of transporting 30 donkeys at a time. We constantly operate 2 tractors. We have to maintain the equipment, the buildings, the fencing, not to mention the feed costs, veterinary costs, and sanctuary fees. It's enough to keep an executive director up at night.
Fundraising donkeys is difficult. You can walk into any bar in America and pass the hat for kids, horses, dogs, any of those things, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. But you bring up donkeys and usually you get laughed at. You have to start a conversation. You have to tell them about donkeys in order to get them interested.
Carrying our message out into the public is a big part of my job. Festivals, parades, events, anywhere where I can get a donkey out in front of people, we try and get there. Once people actually see these animals, put their hands on them, they realize how loving, curious, friendly they can be. That's when we start to change hearts and minds, one person at a time.
I see a lot of people point and laugh at a trailer full of donkeys. They actually laugh.
To be completely honest, before I came to work at Peaceful Valley, I was like everybody else out there. I thought donkeys were stubborn and mean, and their sole purpose was to hurt you. I couldn't have been more wrong. And I wish everybody out there would take the time to get to know what donkeys are really about.
It's really frustrating when you're trying to have a serious conversation with somebody and all they want to do is make stupid ass jokes.
I get asked all the time what would happen to the donkeys in this country if there was no Peaceful Valley. And I really don't know the answer to that. But it wouldn't be anything good, I can tell you that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please remember that the Peaceful Valley Donkey Rescue is supported entirely through private donations. Please go to our website, donkeyrescue.org, and make a donation today. Y'all be good, and we'll see you next time.